Look at your portfolio. If you have a 401k, an IRA, an index fund, anything, go look at the top holdings. You probably own Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, maybe Amazon, maybe Google. Congratulations. You are technically an owner of the most powerful companies on earth. Except kind of not really. Because when those companies hold shareholder votes, the votes that decide who runs them, how the CEO gets paid, what direction the company takes, your voice is not in the room. Somebody else is voting on your behalf. And that somebody is a single company in Manhattan called BlackRock. They have around $11 trillion under management. They hold pieces of nearly every major business in America. And the wild part is, almost nobody who built this system actually planned for it to end up here. BlackRock manages approximately $11 trillion in assets. For context, that is larger than the entire GDP of Japan, larger than the GDP of Germany, the UK, and France combined. It is roughly 40% of the entire annual economic output of the United States sitting on the books of one company headquartered in Manhattan. And BlackRock is not even alone. Vanguard manages another $9 trillion, State Street about $4 trillion. Together, these three firms are called the Big Three. And according to academic research from Harvard Law School and others, the Big Three collectively control voting rights over roughly 20 to 25% of the entire S&P 500. 25% of corporate America's voting power. Three companies. Now, let's be precise here. Owning shares is not the same as running the company. The CEO of Apple still runs Apple. But when shareholders vote, the Big Three sit on roughly a quarter of those votes. That is not control. That is something more interesting. It is influence at a scale that has no historical precedent. Now let's get specific, because abstract numbers are easy to dismiss until you see the concrete reality. BlackRock owns roughly 7.45% of Microsoft. That is 553 million shares. They hold 7.44% of Nvidia, the company sitting at the center of the entire AI boom. They are among the largest single shareholders of Apple, Amazon, and Alphabet. They hold significant pieces of JP Morgan and Bank of America. They hold meaningful stakes in Exxon and Chevron, in Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, in Coca-Cola at 7.37%, and Pepsi at 8.1%. Just stop and think about that for 1 second. The same firm holds large stakes in every competitor you can think of, and BlackRock is sitting on top of all of them, collecting fees on both sides of the war. Some researchers call this common ownership, and they argue it raises serious questions about whether competing companies have any real incentive to actually compete when the same shareholders own both of them. That is not me being dramatic. That is a debate happening right now inside academic journals and antitrust regulators. This is barely a market anymore. It is starting to look more like a portfolio, but the size is only the boring part. The actually fascinating part is something called Aladdin. Aladdin is BlackRock's internal risk management software. It tracks prices and analyzes financial instruments in real time, and here's where it gets weird. Aladdin does not just manage BlackRock's $11 trillion. It is licensed out to other institutions, pension funds, insurance companies, sovereign wealth funds, some central banks. Conservative estimates suggest Aladdin influences risk decisions on approximately $21 trillion in global assets. Some estimates put it higher. That is more money than the entire annual economic output of the United States, all relying on risk signals from a single software platform owned by a single private company. Now, to be clear, Aladdin does not control markets. It does not place trades. It does not decide who buys what. What it does is shape how thousands of institutions think about risk, which is its own kind of influence. When one platform becomes the dominant lens through which trillions of dollars assess danger, the system becomes correlated. Everyone starts seeing the same risks at the same time, and when everyone reacts at the same time, that is when markets move violently. And here's the punchline that should make you laugh and panic in equal measure. Aladdin is hosted on Microsoft Azure. The company BlackRock holds 7.45% of. The risk brain of global finance is renting cloud space from a company that BlackRock itself is partially invested in. The system, in a very technical sense, is feeding itself. Now here is where this becomes personal, because everything I just told you is not happening over there in a glass tower somewhere. It is happening with your money right now. Every paycheck you contribute to your 401k, a slice of it flows into index funds. Most index funds are managed by BlackRock, Vanguard, or State Street. The companies inside those funds, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, all of them, yes, those shares technically belong to you, but the voting rights attached to those shares do not stay with you. They go to whoever manages the fund, which means when there is a shareholder vote at Apple about who sits on the board, how the CEO gets paid, your vote is being cast by BlackRock's stewardship team. You're paying a small fee for the privilege of having your voice taken away and used by someone else. Multiply that across millions of investors, and you start to see the structure of what has actually been built. The American retirement system did not just create wealth for ordinary people. It quietly created the largest aggregation of corporate voting power in private hands in American history, and the strangest part is, we built it ourselves, one paycheck at a time, and almost nobody stopped to ask what the long-term shape of it was going to look like. Now let's be fair for 1 minute, because the story has another side. BlackRock did not build this system through trickery. They built it by being good at one specific thing: selling cheap index funds. And those funds genuinely created wealth for ordinary people. Before the index fund revolution, the average American paid 1 to 2% a year in fees just to have a financial advisor underperform the market. Today they pay 0.03%. Compounded over a lifetime, that difference is real money, hundreds of thousands of dollars per investor. The big three did not steal anything. They sold a product that worked. The structural problem is not that BlackRock did something illegal. It is that something nobody planned for happened anyway. When tens of millions of people quietly handed their voting rights to the same handful of firms, those firms became something the financial system was not designed to have, and the rules for what to do about that, they have not been written yet. If this changed how you see your money, subscribe to Buckonomics.